Awesome. Hi, Max.
Hey Bailey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today? Is it a nice day where you are?
It is. It's a little warm and a little cloudy here in New York, so it's a little humid. How
Uh,
about you?
it's been really we've had it's like been nice days, but we have some smoke coming down from Canada, so it looks like a cloudy day, no matter where, no matter when.
Ooh,
So it's not like affecting breathing, but it's just kind of an interesting thing that happens in the summer sometimes.
does it
So
smell like a campfire?
not that I can tell, but maybe if I were to like leave and come back, I would be able to tell. But I think I've just been in it for long enough that
Just perpetual campfire then.
exactly, exactly. Hello, everyone, for joining us. I hope some of us are hopping in now. I'll just give it another minute or two before we get started with the program today. Give people a chance to join our stream. But we're really excited to talk about finding tech candidates with Boolean. So it's going to be a good program, and we have the perfect expert here to talk about
Well, thanks so much. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Boolean's great.
it. Max and I were just talking. We neither of us have a lot of experience with being live, so this is kind of a fun. It's a Teams conversation with the two of us, but this is going to be fun. So
Yeah.
awesome. So it looks like we have quite a few people here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with the program. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We're going to go through the content first, and then we'll get to the Q&A portion at the end. But if you have any questions about tech recruiting and especially using Boolean to find tech professionals by skills, absolutely drop those questions in the chat, and Max will help get started. So Max, you can go ahead and go to the perfect. So just to give you guys like a little setup of what we'll be talking about today, we're going to start out with just what Boolean is and how and why it is especially useful for finding tech professionals, and how it can be especially useful to recruiters looking to source. We're going to define Boolean, and then Max is going to walk through the syntax and how to use Boolean very specifically, like uh, character by character, and give you that kind of full overview. And then Max has some awesome tips prepared, tips that kind of go beyond just specifically the syntax of Boolean. And then we'll finish out with a quick Q&A. So just to introduce, my name is Bailey Jost. I'm a content strategist here at Dice. And I asked Max to join me today to talk about Boolean. So a little bit about Max. Max is a manager of client success here at Dice. He helps our customers get the most out of our platform. And specifically, he helps them find the right candidates for their roles that they're trying to fill. Max is many things here at Dice, but one of the things that especially Max is known for, he does Boolean classes, and so Max is our Boolean expert, and he walks through Boolean and specific tech roles on a monthly basis with our clients. So I asked him to join because it's great content, and I was like, let's just pull it over to our community here on social and see if we can help people out in a more broader forum. So that is why we're here today, and that's what we'll be talking about. You can go ahead and go. Awesome. So before we get into Boolean specifically, I want to talk a little bit about Boolean and how effective it is for finding skilled tech professionals. Tech professionals identify themselves often by the specific skills and a job description and level of experience, alma mater, and the companies that they've worked for doesn't often get deep enough into what a tech professional is specifically capable for adding to the team. And in addition to that, skills are constantly changing. So tech professionals, they might work in a role for 3 years and pick up many different skills in that process. And as they fill out their profiles on Dice and other hiring platforms, they're listing those skills specifically to kind of capture the, to get attention for what it is that they're doing. So one of the things that your job is to do is to source those qualified candidates. And you need to be able to find the candidates that are the most qualified. We actually looked into this, like about 80% of tech professionals say that skills gaps pose a big risk to their team's ability to succeed. Many of those tech professionals are hiring managers, and they're the hiring managers that you work with. So when you're working with your hiring managers and you're working to find tech professionals to meet those roles, they're worried about the skills gap, and they're worried about meeting those needs on their team. So you can help solve that problem by finding tech professionals based on those skills. Another thing is using kind of the skills-based sourcing approach. It really starts out with where you can meet specific needs that a tech professional can meet. And so you can eliminate some of the issues that come with bias and unfairness that come in the hiring process, that come from looking at higher pedigrees and education and things like that. That is absolutely going to benefit your company, and there's a lot of data to back that up. So just kind of looking at skills-based hiring as an approach. And then lastly, the reason we're talking about Boolean today is because Boolean is a skill that you can acquire for yourself, and it's a tool that you can use to find tech professionals based on those skills. And it's going to be a tool that gives the precision that you need to kind of really hone in on what is most important to the hiring managers and what is most important to the role you're trying to fill. Max, do you have anything to add to this context?
I think that's excellent, Bailey. So, and everybody, the last bullet there, Boolean enables precision as your source, as you source candidates by skills. That's the most important thing. It is so precise. It is so excellent in finding those skills. There's a little bit of nuance, which is what we're going to go over today, but absolutely that last bullet there really, really resonates.
Awesome. Great. You can go. And before we get into this next slide, if you just recently joined our stream, today we're talking about Boolean and how it can help recruiters and hiring managers source tech professionals by their skills. If you're a tech professional yourself and you joined our stream, please head over to dice.com and look at the resources that we have there for you. Today, we're specifically talking to technical recruiters and anybody looking for sourcing. So go ahead, Max, you can go ahead.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. So everybody, this right here is a Boolean, and this is something that you could put into a search bar and, any candidate database to look for, in this case, machine learning professionals. Now, if this looks scary at all, if you're like, oh my goodness, how do I type this? Why are there so many weird symbols? There's a lot of ands and ors and parentheses. We're going to walk through exactly that today. We'll walk you through like the basics of what you need to know when writing out a Boolean. The biggest thing to keep in mind is that Boolean is pretty much the same across most platforms, right? Where the Dice, Clearance Jobs, LinkedIn, most of them are pretty much the same. Sometimes there's a little bit of nuance on some of the characters that you use or don't, but usually it's 90% the same. So I just want to say that right now, that what we'll be going over here is definitely through the lens of Dice, but you can pretty much apply this to other platforms as well. So everybody, Boolean. What is Boolean? Boolean, in the strict definition, is a binary variable logic equation to search through databases by utilizing operators. That's a fancy way of saying, do you have something, do you not? Do you have something, do you not? And that's what we're typing in. We're using basically a math equation here. It looks like a math equation. It is a math equation to tell the system, hey, who in the database has XYZ, and that's what we're typing in. So everybody, there's 5 things you need to know about when writing a Boolean. This is what you need to know. Parentheses, quotation marks, and, or, and not. Parentheses, so this is what you're going to use as equation markers and then adjust your queries. So you're going to be using these basically just to say, hey, I need this, I need this, I need this, and you're going to do whatever you want in those parentheses. Quotation marks. Use quotation marks to find specific phrases, punctuation, or details. So anything kind of like if you have a space in the word, if there's kind of any special characters in there, you always want to use the quotation marks. If it's a singular word, then you're totally fine. You don't need to use a quotation marks, but it just denotes we need this specific word in there. Then there is and, or, and not. And means you have to have both. You have to have all 3. So the and function is really, really strong because it says, okay, this person, when you're typing in your Boolean, needs to have X and Y and Z. And as you can imagine, that actually narrows things down quite a bit very quickly. So the biggest friend in particular, if you're in a tech recruitment space, or if you're actually even looking for candidates in kind of any other more unique field, you're going to really be relying on the or function, right? This or this or this, right? I just need to see at least one, and that's what's going on there. The not function is the omission function. It removes out candidates. So in this case, we're saying not rockets, which I will show you the job description. That was all in jest that the job is in Houston, Texas. And so we were saying not rockets, not the basketball team, just to be funny. But so be very careful because you're omitting people, you're deliberately cutting them out. Which, right, sometimes there are positions that share words but are very different. And so that's sometimes when you want to use the not function, or if you're a technical recruiter working for a big, looking for candidates for a big firm, you can imagine that you're like, oh, I need to exclude that big firm's name out of anybody that I need to look at because I don't want to hire anybody that is already at the firm.
Hey, Max. Sorry, Max. I wanted to quickly address to see if Brian asked a really great question in the chat, sort of like an alternative way for writing the not function. Mm-hmm. Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah. So, and great question. So when you do the not function, you always actually want to put it in its own parentheses because you're going to always do space and space, parentheses, not, new parentheses, and put whatever you want in there because you're going to be ripping apart that not function a lot and you'll be actually extending it and drawing it back in. Additionally, in your example there, Brian, when you have Java and Azure, you're probably going to want to anyways do like Azure, and you're going to want to do like Azure or Microsoft Power BI or something like that. And you're going to want to actually rip that apart anyways. And so when you do that, you're going to want to add in parentheses on either side of both of those kind of functions here. And I'll have the example up here in a bit. I hope I'm answering that correctly.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay, so everybody, here is that lovely job description for a machine learning engineer out of Houston, Texas. Ha, ha, ha. That's why we have the not rockets. Go ahead, sorry.
Max, can you share your screen again? It looks like we lost the slide deck.
1 second. Did that come through there?
Yep, we're all good. Go ahead.
Perfect. Okay, not sure what that happened there. Okay, so this is the machine, thank you, Brian. This is the machine learning engineer position, and it's out of Houston, Texas. We have some responsibilities and then some requirements here, right? And there's that computer science, there's that Python, the R, the TensorFlow, all of those keywords. And really, when you're a technical recruiter, specifically in software or hardware, right? Those are the types of things that you need to be picking up. But I can imagine, right, if you're looking for somebody in the medical space or if, somebody in the energy space, right, look for those keywords. So this right here is that lovely Boolean. I will walk you through from the first character to the last character, and I will explain to you every single step of the way. So the first thing you need to do is a left parentheses because we're going to be ripping apart these words and pulling them back together just like an accordion. And the reason why is because candidates find new ways and different ways sometimes to write one skill. But that's the nice thing about Boolean is that it's so easy for you to rip apart and pull back together, right? And I'll have some examples on that, but just think about JavaScript or if they put a space in between JavaScript. The smallest difference makes the biggest difference. So, okay. We're going to start off here with a left parentheses and we're going to type in Python. Now in that first bullet that I pointed out there, it was Python and write R or Java. Now R on its own, if you can imagine if I just typed in the word R into any search database for a candidate, I would find anybody with the letter R probably in their name. So Max Foster, my name, ends in an R, I would have probably pulled up in your database search and you don't want to hire me. So as a result, because that's a singular thing, we're specifically looking for R. I'm going to put R in quotes. Then I'm going to move on here and I'm going to do space or space, and I'm going to do the next keyword, which is Java, and I'm going to end on a right parentheses. So everybody, don't forget left and right parentheses at all points. Then I'm going to do space, and I'm going to add in our next parentheses grouping. And here's where it gets a little bit more nuanced, right? That second bullet, it had TensorFlow, PyTorch, Skykit. So, right, we just need at least one, right? If a candidate has one, they probably have the other skill or other related skills that we actually could probably have a good conversation with to, actually see if they're a good fit for the role. But because TensorFlow is technically kind of like two words smushed together, I'm going to actually, I don't care if you've spelt it, with a space or without a space. So as a result, I'm going to do TensorFlow or TensorFlow with a space. Because there is a space, I have to put quotation marks on either side so as to not break up the Boolean and ruin things. Then I'm going to do space or space, PyTorch, space or space, skykit, end on a right parentheses. Now, here comes that not function. The not function is going to be a little weird, but because we have different parentheses groupings, you're going to want to do space and space, left parentheses, not, so N-O-T, new parentheses, and you're going to put whatever you want in here. Now, because, right, again, we're looking in Houston, Texas, and we're saying we don't want anybody from the basketball team, we're going to say Rockets, and we're going to end on a right parentheses and a second right parentheses. Everybody, the most important way to remember that is kind of, right, you have your left shoe on, your right shoe on. For the not function, you have socks on the inside, shoes on the outside. If you don't have your socks on, you cannot leave the apartment. That's the way I remember that. And that's,
Love that.
There we go. Cool. So now, Bailey, we do have a syntactically correct Boolean that we could go ahead, copy and paste, type into our search bar in Dice, Clearance Jobs, any of the other platforms that you actually might have access to.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Max. For those of you who might have joined the stream at some point in that, we have Max on the call today. Max is an expert Boolean guru here at Dice, and he helps educate our clients to help them make sure that they have all that they need to effectively use our platform and find the right roles for them. And so that is what we are talking about today. And Max just went through the syntax, and now we're going to go into some bonus tips. But before we get into those tips, we do have a question from Stephanie. Stephanie asked, what if we want to have more than one not? What would you say to that question, Max?
Perfect. So, and I'll just go back here really quickly just so we can see it. So you'll want to do not, and in this case, let's just be even funnier. We'll say Rockets, space or space, and let's just say Astros, right? And we could pick another sports team, right? Dallas Cowboys or whoever, right? The Texans, right? Is that so you want to do space or space, next word, because it's essentially saying if you have the Rockets in your profile, or if you have Texans in your profile, the sports teams, right? I don't want to look at you at all. And so as a result, I'm going to remove you. So it's going to be space or space, and put in your words and keep going, space or space, space or space, space or space, keep going.
Interesting. And to be clear, that means that anybody that has that phrase or word in their profile is automatically taken out of the search. So you should use that very carefully.
Exactly. Yeah. And the Rockets are a pretty good sports team, so let's not, nag on them too much. Okay, everybody, some of the biggest takeaways when doing or using Boolean to look for different tech professionals is start broad. You are going to be so surprised by the different ways candidates can write something, and by, I'm always surprised by my lack of knowledge. I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that skill actually had these different types of variables, or that's actually just the broad term of it. And when you actually look it up, you're like, oh, these are even just the hard skills behind it. And so there's all sorts of different ways that you can write things. And so what I always suggest is start off with a super simple Boolean, and then add on another, okay, I did one parentheses grouping, and then now I'm going to add on the second bullet point for my job description. I'm going to do space and space, new parentheses grouping, and then space and space, and I'll add on the third one, but after I hit the search button every single time. The next thing is, and this is super important, especially for tech recruiters, it's really hard to find these tech professionals, is you're going to want to use synonyms and alternative job titles. So this is just one super simple example, JavaScript. There's all sorts of different ways that you can actually write that. And so utilize the or function in there to find those different ways. So .js, right? .js is oftentimes there's different kind of like nomenclatures before before JavaScript, and it's just shortened down to .js. And in fact, actually most people just say JS in their profiles. And so you just want to be a little careful about that. And so just always be looking for synonyms. Anytime you come across abbreviations, because candidates, right, oftentimes there's limited space on their resume, or they're trying to be professional and they write out the whole word. Every single candidate treats their resume and their profiles differently on different sites. And so always, always, always use the or function to find the different ways that you could write it. So Amazon Web Services, you want to use the acronym and the spaced version, the fully written out version. And then always regularly update your search strings based on results. That's the best part about the Boolean is you're able to accordion it back and forth with all those or functions and the parentheses back and forth. The biggest thing is don't forget to just keep hitting that search button, make a little change, hit the search, because you're going to be so surprised always by who you find. Test and refine your searches for optimal results. And most importantly, everybody, don't forget to save your favorite Boolean strings, because you can copy and paste them and come back anytime. And in fact, usually most of the time, use them on other platforms as well. And so, right, it's great that you're using Dice, but you might also be able to plug them into other systems as well. So test, refine, and save your favorite searches.
Awesome. Wow, Max, thank you so much. That was really great. I am not a recruiter, so I don't know anything about Boolean. So I really appreciate that. And I'm sure many of us do as well. So if anybody has any questions, like we'll be online, please just pop them into the chat and we'll try and see if there's any more questions that we can answer for you.
Yeah, and everybody, thank you so much, and feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn or shoot us a message. We're seriously here to help out. That's the goal of Dice, is to help you find, the goal is to always just connect recruiters and tech professionals.
Max, while we're waiting to see if anyone has a question, I have a question for you.
Yeah, okay.
What is your Boolean, what is the thing that you mess up most often when you're trying to fill out your Boolean strings?
Oh, it's always the spelling. Some of the languages that come through, like the first time, I've been doing this 5 years. The first time somebody was like, they need to have Python experience, and my thought was, are we looking for a snake handler or what? And then a lot of the text languages have very funny words or funny names, and so it can get really confusing. And sometimes you're like, is that the right one? And then you misspell it, and it's just, and so that's why save your favorite Boolean. If it works, save it. Most really, really good recruiters have a Word doc on their desktop, and it's called Favorite Booleans, and they just scroll through up and down all day looking for their favorite one, because it worked last time, it's going to work this time. And it's usually giant, huge, ugly, and it's got 15 keywords in there. And it's great.
That is awesome. Okay. Yeah. I think, I don't think we have any questions in the chat. We've had questions live throughout, but it looks like we don't have any new ones. So that's all we have for everyone today. Thank you all so much for joining us. I really hope that this was helpful. As a reminder, Max does these for our clients every single month. So if you happen to be a client of Dice, absolutely recommend you reach out to us and get yourself on the schedule. He organizes his Boolean classes specifically to types of job roles, so AI engineers, things, HTML, things like that. So you could get a class that's very specific to what it is that you are searching for. So absolutely recommend you reach out. Yeah, thank you all so much for joining us today, and we'll see you